James Ernest of the Grueling Truth Radio Network, here with ROH star Shane Taylor. Shane, what have you been up to?
Hey man, thank you for having me. Just getting back from flying around all across the country, so just starting to get back home, heal up, and get ready to start training to do it again.
So back home in Cleveland?
I actually live in Houston, Texas now, but yes, I am from Cleveland, and we're very proud of that, and we'll always rep that until the day I die. So, but the weather is severely better in Houston.
Oh, definitely. I mean, world of difference up there with the freezingness and all that kind of craziness off of the lake.
Oh yeah, but I mean, we actually had, it was pretty cold down here, and we had some snow a few times. So, and when that happens here, it's Armageddon down here. All the stores have no water, all the stores have no bread. People act like it's the end of the world. I'm like, it's just snow. What are y'all doing?
Exactly. Well, that's the whole thing about it. I mean, the farther north you get, the more they're accustomed to it. Because here in Kentucky and Cincinnati, it can be a little bad on occasion. But, yeah, and then people overreact. Because you always got the people that go, oh, well, I'm from Michigan or Minnesota. Why are you people going crazy? But I know what you mean. So what sports did you play growing up?
Oh, I did everything, man. I played baseball, football, track and field, and got into wrestling when I was in about 7th grade or so. Really started to do like football and wrestling towards the middle school age. And before that, it was baseball.
Did you end up playing in college, football or wrestling?
I actually did wrestle in college. Did 2 seasons at Slippery Rock University, and yeah, like in high school, I did everything. Was a 4-year starter in 3 sports, and yeah, and I was able to go to college and experience what that was like. And at the time while I was there, made some great friends, lifelong friends. But I just knew at the end of the day that deep down I wasn't going to be and I couldn't be a 9-to-5 like cubicle guy. Like that's just not me. I'm not really the kind of guy that someone can tell me, well, you better do this. Like especially like if you can't beat me up, you're not telling me what to do. Like
exactly.
Like, not a thing. You know what I mean? Like
oh yeah.
No. So that's my thing. So once I left college, I was like, okay, I've got a few choices here. I can try to like train for the Olympics, but while I liked amateur wrestling, I didn't love it enough to pursue it like that. And I was like, or I could get into the real world and start doing that, but I wanted to make sure that once I took that route, like that route's always going to be there, but I wanted to make sure that I tried to do something that was going to make me happy, and so I started on this journey.
Exactly. If you do what you love, you don't work a day in your life.
Absolutely.
That, and we definitely can relate to the whole wanting to put your boss through a table, kind of like Austin used to do.
Oh, for sure. But like, I mean, we just live in a world where some people get like a little bit of power and they go nuts, and you're like, you're still whoever you are, outside of this job. Like, just because you have this title doesn't make you a better person than me, doesn't make you a better man, woman than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not above me because you have this title. You just happen to be someone else who has this title.
Exactly. You're just in charge at this scenario. You're not
exactly. For this stretch of time in your day, you're in charge. After that, you're nothing. You know what I mean? But some people tend to forget that,
How did collegiate wrestling prepare you for professional wrestling?
Wrestling in general, like the two sort of mirror each other, as far as the athleticism and the ability to chain moves together to try to think ahead of your opponent. It's physical chess. So the training that I was doing, the stretching, the lifting, the preparing myself for that physicality was tremendous, you know. And you can look at guys like Shelton Benjamin or Charlie Haas or Kurt Angle, Jeff Cobb, you know, guys that have a wrestling background and see how well they transition into professional wrestling, you know, because it's almost seamless, really.
I agree with you 100%. It makes a world of difference. Like, we had Dan Severn on the show a couple weeks ago,
Absolutely.
And everyone knows him from MMA, but of course what got him into MMA was, traditional wrestling, and then he did professional wrestling. Actually, that's the funny thing. A lot of people think he went from traditional wrestling to MMA, then to professional wrestling, but he actually was a professional wrestler first. Like, he brought down the NWA title to the UFC event, and UFC was not happy. We'll phrase it that way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You would think, especially back then, they would want the recognition of, because the NWA was a bigger company then at that point than UFC. I'd have to imagine, like.
Oh, it was.
So that would only bring more eyes to your product.
That would be the logic. I agree with you. But their thing is they were concerned about the results of the matches. You know, they didn't want to get them confused that both items are scripted.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But yeah, I always thought that was weird too, because I agree with you. I'm like, that's just going to get more people watching the show if you have a world champ from one venue, take over in another venue.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up,
sorry, but that's something like I never understood why like as wrestling promotion, like why they ignore the rest of the outside world. You know what I mean? Like, or like for example, everybody knows that like Brock's the man and he's the guy, but like no one ever brought up in a promo like, well, you didn't say that to King Velasquez or Alistair Overeem. Like no one's ever brought that up. Like people don't watch that. You know what I mean? Like, to me, that would be the best line in the world. I'd be like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, but it's just funny how that works.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. The problem is in doing that, then they would feel that would tarnish him somehow, which makes no sense, because, I mean, if you let him lose to Goldberg in 8 seconds, how much could you really tarnish him?
Right. Like, Alistair Overeem is a bad dude. One of the baddest dudes walking the earth. So is Cain Velasquez. Like, but you're acting like everybody doesn't know that already happened. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, we have the internet. We saw.
Exactly.
We saw the meme.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
If we just close our eyes, it'll go away. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Right.
Some of the logic don't make any sense.
Yeah, it did. That's still he's still the baddest dude in this company. That's not even like disputable. You know what I mean? So it's like, why are you ignoring that? To me, that would just lend more credence to the fact that it takes one of the baddest people in the history of the world to even come close to this guy. Like, that adds stuff to me, but I understand the logic of of it possibly not making him as big a draw as they want him to be. But to me, it's just like it happened. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The only thing you can do is add to his legacy.
Right.
So, what got you started training in professional wrestling?
Well, like I said, like when I left college, I always loved pro wrestling ever since I was a kid. My dad used to lift with like the Road Warriors and all those guys, and they would just move ungodly amounts of weight, and so I started thinking about that and was like, that only fits the way I've lived my life and some of the things that I've gone through growing up. And I thought about some of my heroes like Ron Simmons and guys that I looked up to like Vader and Stan Hansen, and I wanted to be able to sort of add my name somewhere into the legacy of the business that they were in. So I looked up how to do it. And when I was living in Pittsburgh at the time and got in touch with a man by the name of J-Rock and Ray Rowe and met up with them in Cleveland, and the
So those were your two main trainers?
Yes. Raymond Rowe, two-time IWGP Tag Champion, former Ring of Honor World Champion, just signed to NXT, and J-Rock. And along the way, and J-Rock is also responsible for helping train EC3, and a lot of great indie guys around the area, that have, national or international exposure. So, having those two guys and that crew of guys, reach as much success as we have has been really cool to see.
Who were in the training classes with you? Who were the other students?
I can't remember all of them. I know that there were a couple, and I'm not sure who's all panned out. I think I may be the only one from my class to still be doing it. But I know some of the guys he helped bring in, or his former students like Matt Roby or John McChesney, have been doing great things. And a lot of guys he's helped along the way, like Bill Collier, who I think is in MCW over there in Maryland. And like I mentioned, EC3 before, and Ray Rose, it's been crazy the amount of success the guys have had.
How has your family inspired you and motivated you to progress your career?
They're everything, for a long time. When I was in Pittsburgh, I sort of plateaued, and I was in a really bad relationship where I just got unmotivated and wasn't doing the things that I was supposed to do. So now that I live down here and I have my fiance and my daughter, providing for them and them being happy is the only thing that I work for. I make sure that I'm up every day early, taking her to daycare or doing whatever I got to do to get ready. And I put myself through hell every day. Dropped 70 pounds this last year. The goal is another 60 or so, all in the attempt to just make sure I'm presenting the best me that there possibly is, so that Ring of Honor top guys and officials can see what I'm doing and see what they have in me, and I can try to be more marketable and be the guy that's leading the company. I've never been in any sport that I played. I've been the starter. I've been the man. I've been the guy. I've never been JV anything. I've never been a bench player. You know what I mean? Like, I am a game time player, and I'm a big game player. And I think people are starting to see that now in Ring of Honor when you put me in there with guys that you expect me to step up and perform well against. I do so, and I exceed the expectations. So, with the match with Marty Scurll, with the match with Kenny King, with the match with Flip Gordon, I think people are really starting to notice that, oh, hey, he really can go. He really is as good as he's saying he is, and maybe we should, start taking note of that.
Is it your training regimen, the different exercises? Is it more the intake? Are you eating healthier? What caused that big change?
Oh, all of that. Changed my diet and really just stopped eating stupid stuff. And every now and again, you have a cheat meal because you need to keep your sanity. But just different training, just not going as as heavy with weight. I'm 32 now, so like when you're in your 20s and you're in your 30s and you're in your 40s, you just train differently. Like you just train smarter. I don't need to be out there trying to bench 500. There's no point. You know what I mean? Like, at least not for me, not for the way I wrestle. So I've just learned to eat better, train smarter, and I really just put the work in. That's all you can really do.
Exactly. The young guys will go to the gym and, do the weight to feel like they're impressed somebody. Where on the other hand, as a vet, you get the idea of doing it for the right reasons. Sounds like.
Right. I just need to. I already am strong. I just need to be able to portray on camera that I look strong. Like, you know what I mean? I just need to look the part. I already know that I hit hard. I already know that I'm strong. I don't need to prove to anybody in the gym what I can do. I just need to be able to look like I can be on, magazine covers or silver screens or TV screens or whatever it is. I need to make sure I look like that.
With it being February, you had mentioned Ron Simmons earlier. Tell us about how, he has opened doors and some of the other people that have opened the doors to give you the opportunity to be that next big star, along with your hard work, of course.
Oh, man. I actually just shared a Facebook post a few days ago about Ron when he won the title from Vader, and I remember watching that as a kid, and I have very unpopular opinions when it comes to wrestling, as far as a lot of the characters that people of color have needed to play in wrestling. I as much as I respect all these men for opening those doors, like you said, I just wasn't a big fan of the wild man characters or the thugs or the pimps or whatever they were, because they portray and reinforce like the most negative stereotypes about black people that there are, and they feed them to a mass audience. So they're just perpetuating ignorance, and for me, that was just something that I could never get behind, because I lived in that, and I was like, but I also saw people growing up that weren't that. So I knew you could be, like you could avoid that. So I'm like, well, why is it that on TV this is all you see? You don't, but then like you'll have one show like the Cosby's, and then actually have people believing like, oh well, that's not really black life. Like, what do you mean? That of course it is. Like, you have just as much ability to be a doctor and have a successful family in a great area, going to a great school, and living a great life as anybody else. There's nothing that says this is what you're relegated to. It's only bad stuff can be attributed to black culture. It's absolutely mind-numbing, but that's what people see every day. That's what they hear every day. That's what they're shown. That's what they believe. And now it's to the point where if you even speak well or are educated, you're seen as not real enough. Which is the dumbest thing, because you're the epitome of real. Everybody else is the one caught in the game. You are the one, bettering yourself and evolving, which is what you're supposed to do as a human being, which is what you're supposed to do as a decent person, So seeing guys like Ron Simmons to be able to just be an athlete, just to be a hard-working, take no nonsense, hard-working athlete, go out there, climb the mountain, and be, at one point in time, the best in the world at this profession, and represent that. To me, that hit home so much. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, I want to be able to do that. But I knew I didn't look like Ron. I was a big kid. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I want to do that, but I also like the way that Vader just beats guys up and Hansen just beats guys up, and that was really cool to me too. But to see guys like, Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas and, King Parsons and all these guys, and Bobo Brazil, and just all these guys that were just athletes, just tough, big and strong athletes going out there and giving it their all. To me, that impressed me way more than any of the other character stuff.
Do you feel it was intentional, or do you feel it was just lazy writing?
A little bit of both. People want to be entertained, and to a mass and the majority of the audience is entertained by characters of black culture. You know, a buddy of mine was like, you know, everybody wants to be a part of the culture because it's so cool and it's edgy and it's this, and everybody wants to be a part of it, but no one really wants to be, you know, like, be us. You know what I mean? Like, cause like there's a line, you know. So it's just one of those things. It was like people think, for example, there was a promo with Slick where he's eating fried chicken and he's like, oh, my yard bird and this, and to me, and some people find it funny. I don't. I cringe every time I see it, because all I can think is someone's just out there thinking, yeah, enjoy that chicken. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, come on, man. Like, there's got to be a way to present this better than that.
Exactly.
You know, but that's what people find funny. That's what gets laughs. And I'm sure it can be entertaining. Excuse me, but I'm like, we don't always have to be the butt of the joke. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, but at some point it kind of gets old.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, the repetition of it. Yeah, I mean, if it's funny because it's so absurd, you know, so ridiculous, and they're not, you know, believing it's real.
Yeah.
But the problem is, people see that and they think
it's real.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that's where we have issues, because now you're enforcing that. So now they believe that, and they go into the outside world operating under that mindset, and it's a problem.
Exactly. People believe Crime Time really steals stuff, or, the nation's really angry, and, you know, all that ridiculous things over the years.
Right. Then they're like, well, maybe they don't steal stuff, but you know how the hood is. And I'm like, come on. Like, you've never been there. You don't even know anybody from the hood. You know what I mean? Like I knew people from the hood that would give you the shirt off their back. You know what I mean? Like, they would give you their last $5 to make sure your kids ate dinner. You know what I'm saying? You're like, and granted, you have a lot of crazy stuff too, but when you're in an environment, you know, lacking in, you know, just about everything, you know, and you're basically just trying to survive, then you're going to have crazy situations happen. I mean, hell, you have crazy situations happen in suburbs where people have everything. You know what I mean? So, like, what do you think is going to happen when you take that away from people?
Not that it's ever an appropriate word, but the time Booker T called Hulk Hogan.
No, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I was going to say, that is still pretty funny, because Terry, from what I've heard from everybody, is not the nicest person. So just hearing him get insulted on live TV, once again, not that, you know, that's the right word for it, but yeah, that was pretty darn funny. And the fact that Stevie Ray
I mean, like slips like that are funny, and like you could see in Book's face, like when he said it, he knew, like, man, I messed up. You know what I mean? But luckily for him, like I don't think he got in too much trouble, and it was quickly like water on the bridge, and everything was cool, you know. But it's like things like that are like, all right, that's kind of funny, you know what I mean? But that in itself has taken on a life of its own on the internet, you know what I mean? Like, so it only shows, like, one, in this day and age, man, like, you're never safe. You could have made a mistake 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and people are going to find that out, and then that's going to be how you're known for the rest of your life. Is for this, you know what I mean? For that slip in wording that you said 20 years ago, you know, it's crazy.
Being a Cleveland native, what's your thoughts on the changing of the logos for the Indians?
On one hand, I understand the nostalgia. People grew up with that, and that's what they associate the team with. And when you change things that people have grown up with, they take it personally, you know. But for me, I already saw the change coming, because they were going with the C more often than the Chief Wahoo, right? So I saw it coming, and I'm like, for the people that are upset by it, I have to ask, why are you really upset? Because other than the fact that it's something that you grew up with, like, you really have no claim to be upset. Like, it is an offensive thing for those who have gone through that, and for people who that's their culture. So if they want it to be changed, then okay. And let's not forget the fact that, like to me, it's always interesting when people say the phrase, "When did this become racist?" or "When did this become this?" And it's like, a lot of times it's always been like that.
Exactly.
Like, let's not forget how we started this stuff. And just because you grew up with it and learned it a certain way doesn't mean that was the origin of it or the intent of it. There's a lot of murky and shady history behind a lot of the common things that we do today, and the common phrases that we say, and ways we go about things and policies. Like, and they started with a bad intention. And just because you're just finding out about it now doesn't mean it just started being that way. That just means you're just finding out that it was that way. But other people have known for a very long time.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I personally have no problem with it. If they want to just switch to the C, then that's all good.
Exactly. It's kind of like the movie The Matrix. You're finally getting your eyes open and to be able to see the problems that have existed for a long time, something like that. Going back to, of course, February, and some great inspirational leaders with your hometown team, the Browns. Jim Brown. What's your thoughts on him and how he's impacted not just football, but culture in general?
I mean, Jim Brown has been a historical figure, for years. I'm kind of upset at sort of the flip-flopping he's done as he's gotten older, because it seemed like when he was younger, he was, he stood with Ali, and stood with all the guys through that era. And now, as he's gotten older, he's sort of like switched positions, but like almost like I heard something he did with about Kaepernick, and it was like, you can't be an activist and play football. And I was like, wait a minute, Jim. Like, isn't that kind of what you did? Like, come on, my guy. Like, you can't tell him not to do something that you sort of have to shape the mold for, And if you're going to, if you're going to knock against him, at least do it the right way or make sense about it. But don't feed into the nonsense of it's about the flag, because it's not. It has nothing to do with the flag. That was just the vehicle of the protest. Like, the protest was not about the flag. It was about racial inequality and injustice. The fact that people are getting killed unjustly and unarmed, and nobody's being held accountable for it. But with other cases and other groups of people, those same actions don't happen. Those people are brought to justice. Those families do see justice, and rightfully so. So if they get to have justice, why don't we?
Exactly.
And if our flag is supposed to mean that everybody has the freedom and equality that it promises, and this is what we're promoting as a company, and I personally don't feel like we're meeting that expectation, then that symbol doesn't mean what it's supposed to mean. And if it doesn't mean that, then that means something's wrong. And if something is wrong, it should be our obligation to fix it as a nation. You know what I mean?
Yes,
so
exactly.
That's why the knees were taken. It has nothing to do with disrespect for the military. It has nothing to do with disrespect for the nation. Especially when you think about the fact that it was a military veteran that told him to kneel.
Mm-hmm.
Nate Boyer said, hey, we kneel for fallen soldiers out of respect. I feel as though kneeling would be much more respectful than you sitting. And Cap said, okay, I'll gladly do that. If that's what, if we can get to that middle ground, then yeah, okay. But yet, where does all the heat go. You know what I mean? Like, people forget the fact that, well, a military person told him this was okay. And you may not agree with it, but my question then is, why do you not agree with it? Because it's peaceful. He's not interrupting the anthem. He's literally doing nothing. He's sitting back and quietly and respectfully protesting, which is what they fought, which is a right that they fought for, you know? And if you're going to tell someone how to be an American, or what they need to do with the rights that they were given, isn't that more disrespectful? Because how are you going to tell them how they should use the ability that someone died to give them? Like, who are you to tell them to do that, or tell them what they should or should not do? To me, that's ridiculous, you know. And it's absolutely just it confuses me as to sort of the hypocrisy that is going on. Like, now all of a sudden you're super patriotic, yet I haven't seen you down there at the Veterans Hospital, like, you know, volunteering. I haven't seen you trying to fight to get soldiers more employment opportunities or housing or, you know, or health care or anything like that. But as soon as you're told, hey, this guy doesn't like the military, oh, here you go, break out all the flags. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be a patriot, understand what that means truly. Like, because there's a big difference between patriotism and nationalism. There's a huge difference. Like, a lot of people think they're one thing, but they're actually doing the other.
Exactly, and you can't pick and choose on, you know, like you said, on the issues. You know, if you're going to stand up for the country, stand up for it. If you're not, you know, don't. But don't, you know, and don't automatically look to find faults in others. Because like you said, the soldiers died for everyone to have their free speech.
Exactly. They did not die for you to be able to tell them what their free speech is. You know what I mean? Like, they died to let them have it. And a lot of people that, like, I have a military family. I grew up around it, and my dad wouldn't let me join. He's like, no, I would rather you do anything else, simply because of how he knew how he was treated and how my grandfather was treated, and they both served, you know. And it was like, you know, why? Just because you have people in your life that do those things, they're still people. Great people, yes, but they're still people. You know, they're human and they make mistakes just like everybody else. And being against policies that we have in this country doesn't mean that we're against them. And challenging the status quo doesn't mean that we're against them. But people that have people in that take it so personally, it's like if you say, hey, we can fix things here in America, it's like you're saying you're anti-American. And it's like, no, I love my country same as you. Matter of fact, I love it so much that I know that it can be better, and I want it to be. And I just don't understand why wanting to improve things makes you anti that thing. I just don't get that mentality.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir on that one. I know it's on a much smaller scale, but like for me, my alma mater, Northern Kentucky University, I wanted to do something with them. I wanted to do some marketing with them. And, you know, I use the phrase, you know, I want to, you know, make it great again. And they interpreted as me saying, it's not good now. And I'm like, no, it just couldn't be better. And I want it to be better, you know, that kind of thing. Obviously, my thing's on a much, you know, smaller scale. But you're right. You're right. Just saying that change doesn't always have to be a bad thing. It doesn't automatically mean that things are bad. It just, like you said, can get better. But switching to...
Yeah. And I'm like, look at cars from, you know, when they were invented to now. Someone said, hey, we can make this better. Not that the old one wasn't good, but we can get more gas mileage. We can get more horsepower. We can get cooler designs. We can do all of these things. That doesn't mean that the old thing was bad. It just means, hey, this is a different time. We have better technology. Like, let's see what the potential of this can be. And my question is, why would you not want to do that with your country? Why would we not want it to operate at its optimum? Like, we see how it's being run now. Like, it's got to be, like, there's got to be a better way to this. There's got to be.
Switching to a lighter subject, have you forgiven Ernest Biner yet?
No. And I wasn't even alive then, but no.
The really neat thing is he has done a lot. Like, he has embraced that to an extent where he has done a lot, working on trying to forgive himself and trying to teach other people actually how to forgive themselves. I had him on the show, about 2 months ago. Really great guy, and he does kind of things in the community, and then he sets up like these workshops where basically he tries to teach people. I forget, it wasn't Buddhism, but it's one of the where you inward thinking religions and or philosophies, and he's really done a lot with that.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I joke, but I have no problem with Biner. I mean, he got mistakes happen, man. Like, and as passionate as Cleveland fans are, like, they just want somebody to be able to take their frustrations out on. You know what I mean? Like, and that he just happened to be the guy at that moment. Like, I know people who still hate John Elway, who hate Jordan. You know what I mean? Because he crushed the Cavs. You know what I mean? Like, just they just when you're hurt that much about your sports teams, you just look for someone to blame it on to feel better. And that day in that moment in time, it happened to be Biner, and it's just one of those things. It's like it's unfortunate, and it sucks. He's had to carry that around, but good for him for being able to take that and sort of make it positive from it.
Oh yeah, he's done a lot with it. It was really really interesting to find out. But yeah, I mean, he beat himself up for years about that, and then, like I said, eventually he turned it around to a positive. Tell us about the people you would like to thank for your career, that have helped you along the way.
Oh, wow. We would be here all day, for me to do that. Right off the top of my head, though, obviously, Raymond Rowe, J-Rock, without them guiding me, I wouldn't be doing this. EC3, John McChesney, Bill Collier, Jay Briscoe, Adam Cole, my man George Carroll, looking out for me. All of the ROH officials, who took the chance on me to bring me in and give me the opportunity to learn and grow and further my career. Kevin Kelly, who's always been there to provide wisdom and encouragement and let me know what I need to work on. Steve Carino for doing the same thing. And there's a laundry list of guys, but those are the ones off the top of my head that I can call on at any time and know always give me advice or show me something or just really go above and beyond to try to help me get better. Alex Shelley too. Alex Shelley is another one that really, like, every time I see him, he's like breaking things down for me, and just small things that, like, the average person wouldn't think would be a big deal, but makes so much difference in your matches.
Exactly, the little details that put you from good to great.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know you just mentioned about how he helps you, but I have to ask this. Do they really point to their hand in real life, or is that just a thing from the show?
Do they point to their hand in real life?
Hands. Their hand. Like the Michigan people? Like, because do they really...
You know what? Like, I don't really know because we've never brought up Michigan. Like, I mean, like outside of doing shows there, like we'll talk about it, but like it's never come up as far as like a geographical thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I guess I'll have to bring it up to see if they do it, but I've never seen them do it. But then again, I'm not around them all the time, so I'm only around them for a little bit of time. So I'm not sure. That's a very good question, and I'll have to find it out.
Yeah, because the rest of the stuff they do is great, but I always thought that hand thing was just so darn goofy. And I've heard from some people that some people in Michigan actually do that, but I didn't know if like that's a thing.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. You know what I mean? Like it does kind of look like a hand with like a mitten on it. You know what I'm saying? Like so, like I get it. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I'll have to see if they really do that.
Awesome. And before we let you go, what social media, what websites, how can fans learn more about you?
Yeah, Facebook, Shane Taylor, Twitter and Instagram at Shane216Taylor. If anybody is a fan of me or ROH and you want to buy some merch, please, ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor, all lowercase. ROH Pro Shop, the new Shane Taylor Knockouts for Everybody t-shirt is available. So if you want to pick that up, that'd be great. And just thank you all so very much for the support. And I plan on making this year an even bigger and better year than last year was.
That's what we love to hear. Keep doing the great work out there, and we wish you the best in the future.